Hello, everyone. This is Anya Farber, your host of the Zionist AF podcast. And today we have Lee with us. And I was like, just saying before we started, I'm like, I don't really know how to introduce you because you're like Mr. Renaissance Man and you've worn so many hats. I was like, let me just read one of the things that I read about you.
Oh
And
boy.
I was like, I want someone to say stuff like this.
I'll brace myself.
No, listen, guys. I mean, obviously people who are watching know who you are from your posts and everything else, though they might know you with, many of your other hats. But this is the first thing that came up. Lee Trink is an entrepreneur in the entertainment and media industries focused on, this is what I loved, the convergence. What a great word. The convergence of gaming and entertainment. In both, see, look at this, cultural, see, this is where it really hits, in the cultural movement and the explosive business. And I was like, way to be like on the cutting edge, because you clearly like got into all of that when the getting was good. But before you even introduce yourself, I learned something when I was trying to just figure out how was I going to summarize you when you came on. And I was like, wait, hold up. He was in the district attorney's office? And then, so I said to our mutual friend, Joe, I was like, he's a Renaissance man. How are you having a real life Renaissance man on the podcast? So Lee, welcome, 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 welcome. It is really thrilling to have you because your voice is amazing and strong, but I don't know. You say whatever you want to say about yourself because I don't know what to say.
Yeah, look, I guess I've had a career to make things interesting at both interviews and cocktail parties. I think that's it. So look, I don't know, I've always been interested in a lot of different things, and I've never felt to the desire to be kind of limited by what I did yesterday to define what I'll do today or tomorrow. And I kind of, I'm passionate about a lot of things. And so I go to where my passions are. And sometimes, maybe my passion on some things waned. Like, I've spent after October 7th, I spent the following year really focused on advocacy and Jewish and Israeli issues. But, I was exploring what I was going to do next. And so sometimes I decide what I don't want to do. Sometimes it's a negative and I say, okay, I'm not doing that. So let's figure out what else there is. But I've just, I've always had this thought of good path, bad path. Am I on a path where good things and interesting things will happen? Or am I in a bad path where there will be less opportunities? And that's kind of been it for me. I've not been very well thought out, which is maybe why you see so many different roles that I've played in my life.
Well, I think, isn't there like a statistic that people change careers, not even jobs, careers 6 times in a lifetime? And listen, I am one of those people who's definitely changed, the path because of, listen, sometimes it's things that you can control, sometimes it's things that you can't.
Totally.
But as you were explaining, something that none of us were in control of, but I think, you are offering a really great example and a very bright light. Perhaps the lights of Hollywood, one might say, as you are tied into the entertainment industry as well. And you are taking that light and shining it on exactly what you said. You're like, after October 7th, I have committed all of this time to advocacy for Jewish and Israeli issues. And, I think that there's so much going on in the United States, being, a Jew in the United States, and there's all of this talk of how October 7th, kind of like that was like a green light for like raging, ridiculous anti-Semitism all over the United States. Now, and when you're in an industry like Hollywood, right? I mean, there's all this talk. We just had an election. And people were like, well, I was afraid to speak up, but that my feelings were conservative because I would lose jobs and, and stuff like that. And, I feel like our people within entertainment, it's a very complicated thing, right? Because they're like, oh yeah, it's always all Jews, and then it's like, oh no, it's ragingly anti-Semitic, and it's this and it's that, and everything is so multi-layered and complicated. Yes, you were like, I must do this, but has there been, have you had like, has there been like uncomfortable points? I mean, obviously it hasn't stopped you, nor should it, but like, it is a complicated situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's let's say it's a complicated circumstance, but I personally didn't have um, one conflicted moment, like not one, because for me, nothing else is worth it. If we have to live in fear or hide our Jewishness, and frankly, like I'm somebody pre October 7th who didn't really, you know, maybe I had a chai at one point when I was younger. I never wore a Star of David, and I wear, now I'm wearing this, but like, I often have my
Love that.
doorknob Star of David, and so it wasn't important for it because it didn't I didn't feel like I need to make a statement about it, and now I do. I wear it as a statement piece. I wear it to make a point. But for me, it was like it was a light switch, and look, maybe on some level, I have the benefit of being a little bit more in control of my own destiny. In that, in that I I'm an entrepreneur and I'm working on my own businesses and my own things. And granted, you can be impacted, in that regard, but nobody held kind of the keys to some job for me. So maybe, and I I acknowledge that maybe I have it a little easier than somebody who needs to get a job. But for me, it was what was clear was nothing else would matter to me if I had to let myself live in fear, see other Jews live in fear, or somehow hide my Jewishness or be a little less Jewish. Like any of that was anathema to my thinking, and so what I actually felt was important was to demonstrate to people that we have to be outwardly Jewish, right? Like I say it, it's why I wear it. It's like it's more important than ever for Jews to take up space because we have a great many people trying to push us into the shadows. And it's how it's happened to us before. They start with that. They make it difficult. They make the environment difficult. And the antidote to that is to step into the light and to demonstrate that you will not be cowed, that you will be loud and proud about your Jewish identity, and you'll wear it on your sleeve. And look, do I have sympathy for those who don't have the courage or the wherewithal to do it? I have some. Everybody's situation is different. I was, and this happens to me with some regularity, and it's always disappointing. But I was at like waiting for a car at a at a valet at a restaurant, and somebody saw my Jewish star, and they said something about it, which is often happens to me, and they said, "I wish I could wear mine." And that's, the reality is you could wear it. You could wear it. What is going to happen to you? Are you going to get a dirty look? Are you going to get confronted in some way? Like no one is, it is the odds are slim to none that, okay, if a small person doesn't want to walk into a pro-Palestine rally with a Jewish star, I can understand that. But to walk around your neighborhood, you're not going to get there's nothing going to happen to you that's going to be that bad. But again, I try and be empathetic to those that don't necessarily have the stomach for confrontation.
I mean, I, I'm glad that you brought that up. I mean, I clearly have the stomach for confrontation. Um, I have outwardly worn Judaica, you know, layers and layers. I'm actually wearing a few less necklaces only because they got super tangled this morning, and I had to actually take them off. I'm going to have to spend some time untangling them later. But before October 7th, I was very outwardly, like I always had something on. But after October 7th, I mean, like double, triple, quadruple down or whatever. And I was recording, and as we do, we talk with our hands all the time, us Italians, the whole nine. And one of my guests was like, "Oh my God, are your nails blue and white?" And I'm like, "Yes, they are." And they have been blue and white for like over 3 or 4 years. Like, that's something I've consistently done, because just in case it wasn't abundantly clear, and I'm wearing, one of the pieces from the Zionist AF shop, of course, with the Jewish stars everywhere. And I will walk around Manhattan with my jacket that has the giant blue and white Israeli lion. Like, because I'm of the mentality of bring it,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm not gonna to be, afraid of you, because that's just not, I don't know, maybe I'm just, wired that way. But the
I
thing
mean,
is,
that is the case, right? Like some
yeah,
people just don't have the stomach. And again, I try and be empathetic, but what I would encourage people to think of, like,
there you go.
it doesn't, whatever your concern is typically unfounded.
But also, you're essentially doing what they want by giving in to being afraid. And the thing is, I always try to encourage people. Do I expect every single person to go around wearing things that are like very clearly, like Zionist AF all over the place, or like a huge Israeli flag? Like, no, I'm not saying everyone needs to paint their nails blue and white. I mean, though, Lee, I'm sure you could rock the painted nail look. I'm sure it would be great for you.
I have rocked the painted nail
I
looks.
fully support it.
Yeah.
You do you. But I want to try to encourage more people to feel comfortable wearing a chai, feel comfortable wearing a Magen David, feel comfortable. Again, I mean, I wear a map of Israel, but I even took it a step further. I went and I actually got that permanently put on my body, these things. Like, you know, um, and I think that, like you said, you're like, well, I knew that I had to step into the light. And I think that that's a point that we as Jews are taught. This is something that's like ingrained in us, right? Even in good times, we have to remember the dark times. But in the dark times, you are commanded to celebrate, to find the good in life, to continue to be light, to continue to do good deeds, to take care of your community. And I try to be supportive and encourage people to to have access to these things. And we have a friend here at Zionist AF. It's the company Alephet Jewelry. I'm not sure if she wants me to use her name, the owner, so I'm just going to say the name of the company. And during the height of the college issues, she was sending Mug and David necklaces free of charge to college students who were feeling targeted, as a
Yeah.
way to say, like, I'm with you, I love you, we are a family. Like, you know, it's one heart, one family, one heart, one mind, but we need to step into the light, and we cannot cower. I mean, they that's what they counted on in the past, right? And I'm sorry, but that's just not going to happen. And you can look back at history, like our friend in common, Mr. Joe there. He is like mad spitting out history facts, but he also does it with all his fancy swearing words and all that. And he just, I don't know how he swears and thinks so fast at the same time. But you know, again, it's like it is what it is. Like, we have facts, we have truth, we have the light on our side, and we just have to continue to stand together and to shine more light. And I hope that, like, I want you to know that even though I'm someone who's not like worried about speaking up, when I see things from you, it does give me energy. It empowers me and reminds me to continue to advocate. And I think that is what we can all hope to bring to, and not just our fellow Jews, by the way. I mean, we're both living in the United States. I quite frankly, I mean, Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. They align with our values here in America, and what's going on in America does not match American values.
It's true.
So, but thankfully, with a new administration, I can't believe that I ever would have to say, like, oh, I'm waiting for that law to be passed to consider me a minority so that I can, fight back legally for being persecuted or physically attacked on a college campus and being told by an administration, oh, if you don't like it, stay home. Like, what?
Yeah, look, I think there's been a lot of charades going on around how values are manifested. I think that we start drifting away from a value-based society to a rule-based society that really was detached from a value system. I think that you could say, well, no, this rule is meant for this value. But if that rule actually doesn't cover other people in a similar situation, then you're really, I think as we've seen, we've seen kind of these rules twist themselves into a pretzel in order to kind of cover some people, protect some people, but not protect everybody. And I think that that's over. I think that kind of again, I typically call it a charade because we all participated in it, and frankly, I participated in it. I ran a company, I ran a public company, and and it was during an era where a lot of this thought and kind of this like new type of social thought was being brought in. It was a very youth driven company. And so I tried really hard to understand where people were coming from. And again, I think, and I participated in ways. I remember one of the things, and I've said this before. We had a speaker come in to talk about DEI to our company, and it was I can't remember if it was required, but it was probably required. Probably invited everybody, and we had 100 some odd people at the company. And this person was highly recommended. Came in. This is a person who presented to Nike and other big companies, and I thought, okay, we're this
Yeah.
modern company. We're gonna okay. I want to hear. And again, I came in truly ready to learn and ready to hear where. And the reality is, I remember sitting there and listening to this person. Again, we paid this person some real money to come speak,
Yeah.
and there was nothing of value. There was nothing. I had to keep my poker face on because I'm the CEO of the company, but all I could think of is what a sham all of this is.
Right.
And I don't even know what we're trying to tell people. Like, what is the takeaway here? What is the again? I think a lot of these things shouldn't be kind of again. There's a difference between rule based and value based. Value based starts to inform. Okay, the guidance that you follow, but if the rule base again is only covers certain people and doesn't cover other people, and like again, these rules were twisting themselves into a pretzel.
Yeah.
It's just a fallacy. It's not a value system.
It's almost like the do as I say, not as I do, coupled with,
It's like hypocrisy baked into the system.
yeah.
Like anytime you have a rule system where hypocrisy is literally
Yeah.
baked in, that's not a real system. And it's not a system that I can back.
Right. But I do think, like, like you said, you're like, I went into this with the best of intentions because I do think, we're also taught, within Judaism to have compassion for others and to be welcoming and to be accepting and to try to learn and to try to teach others and all of these things to incorporate, right? There's a reason that Israel is the only country in the Middle East where you can worship any god you want. You can love and marry any person you want, right? Does not matter if it's same sex or not. Again, this is not happening in the neighboring areas where Israel is. So as Jews, we align with these values. Like, I think you hit it perfectly. It's values versus rules, and these rules are not like, they're not even crossing over the values. They're just kind of
Oh,
like in this
it's
other.
arbitrary. It really is arbitrary. And what it's really evidenced itself to be is a power reallocation. That's it. It's
That
power
is a fancy
reallocation.
phrase. I like that.
I don't think I've ever said it before,
How? Let's
but
say it again, Lee. A power reallocation. Look
I
at
mean,
you
that's
just dropping these.
like to me. It's what it is. It's the same thing about a lot of systems are kind of wealth redistribution. And by the way, if you want to advocate for either power reallocation or wealth redistribution, say it. If you think that's what
Don't
it is,
hide it as something
don't yeah,
else.
don't bullshit. Don't bullshit a bullshitter.
Yeah.
Like like when you come in and you say no, it's for some lofty purpose. But then when you unpack it, you really see what it really is. That's just
Yeah, where
this.
is it?
I'm not going to, I can't entertain it. If you want to say to me, here's why we need to have power reallocation. Okay, let's have that conversation.
Yeah.
By the way, that sounds like an interesting conversation to have. But when you're masking what your real goals are, and by trying to seem virtuous, that's when I have a problem with you. And I think that's we've sort of degenerated into a place where that's a lot of it. A lot of it is it's where I hate some of these buzzwords. That's why maybe I come up with my own like power reallocation. But like because I hate buzzwords like virtue signaling. Ugh, it's such a grotesque. It's still accurate, right?
You're
Like
triggering me, Lee. I'm
yeah,
feeling very triggered.
you have these people that it's so important for them. The most important thing is the cosmetic appearance of being virtuous, right? And regardless of what the underlying impact is, right? And by the way, back to what you made a point about kind of Jewish ideology and how we're made to be empathetic. I think the challenge that we're even having within the Jewish community, and frankly, tension within the Jewish community right now, and I don't believe in public infighting. At least let's get the war over with, and then we have our house to clean. But we do like I think we have there's a segment within the Jewish community that is that that prioritizes certain liberal values over our own safety and security. And again, and often they will point to Judaism as the source of that.
Hmm?
And I don't think that that's accurate. I don't think there is anything that comes from Jewish teachings where you need to subjugate your own safety, well-being in order to tikkun olam or anything else that you want to do. It's not at your own, you're not meant to sacrifice yourself. I think you're meant to do quite the converse. And so again, I don't think, I hate it when I see the Jewish infighting and, it's not a tremendous amount, thankfully. It's been fairly manageable. Um, at the moment, I don't think it's appropriate. Again, after the war, I think we need to talk about these issues. I think we need to, in the
Very
interest,
much.
how are you saying, one family, one people, one family. We need to clean. We need to clean up, our own house as well.
Oh, 100%. And I think, it's a lot of that, like, I don't want to even use the word misunderstanding of values and actual teachings, right? Like, because it doesn't say within Judaism when someone's trying to kill you, roll over and let them. Like, it definitely does not say that, and it doesn't say, well, excuse their behavior, or whatever the case may be. It might say when someone is being oppressed, stand with them, right? But it does not say at your own expense and then give up everything
Yeah,
and right.
someone
That's
else's
the
oppression
problem.
is not more valuable than your own. It's not.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just close.
Yeah. No. And I feel like there's been a lot of twisting of that. There's this misunderstanding, misrepresentation, or it's been misused, or used for someone else's advantage. And I think that has also led to a lot of the infighting. And I do believe that that is part of our own problem, because instead of yes, for the most part, are we being united and doing what needs to be done? Yes. But I do think that, I mean, it upset me how long it took for a lot of people to speak up. Um,
And then we certainly have a lot of people that still haven't spoken up. And
well, I am no longer supporting certain people that used to be like favorites of mine, as in certain industries that I'm like, nope, you can't open your mouth. Bye.
yeah,
I don't have, yeah.
what I have told people when the conversation has come up, I don't expect anybody to destroy whatever platform they have in the pursuit, but there is a way for really almost anyone to participate. And, and again, I think it's not a one size fits all
Correct.
situation. It's not,
Correct.
because, if people, let's say a lot of this happens when somebody has a big platform online, for something else, and people are there for something else. You're not going to do yourself a favor by converting that entirely to pro-Jewish, pro-Israel narratives, right? Because what you'll end up doing is you're going to end up diminishing your platform, and that's not good for any of us. But I think what what I would expect anybody is to be thoughtful in a way, and to have some amount of courage, especially if you have a platform and you have some ability and some connectivity. Have some type of personal courage to at least figure out what you can do while not destroying your business, your livelihood, your career, or whatever it is. Because I don't expect people to do that.
Yeah, and even if it's something that you quietly do, like, okay, so you aren't going to destroy your platform by speaking out, but if this has affected you and maybe you weren't wearing a Magen David, a Chai, a mezuzah, a Hamza, whatever it was, but you're wearing it now, even if you're wearing it under your shirt, at least you're wearing it. Like, find that part of you that is value based, that is virtuous, that because really, when you aren't willing to do something, because that you're not willing to stand up for yourself, when you're not really admitting to any of that, and have that strength. And again, you're right, this is for sure not a one size fits all, right? And even if you are vocal, regardless of how large your social media platform is or whatever it is that you're doing, how you go about it also is not a one size fits all,
Yeah.
right? Like, if I went at it the way that Joe does, it wouldn't really fly. I think it would be a little weird. Like, he's got a whole, you know,
Well, I think
it's genuine from him.
well, that's really it, right?
Yeah.
Like, what typically resonates are things that are authentic. Like people see authenticity and they respond to authenticity. So somebody doing, the Joe Paul thing, like that's not kind of organic to who they are, it won't fly. Like, you watch his stuff, he's just the genuine article. Like, he just is what he is, and that's why it's so
There you
appealing
go.
to me, because it's just like that resonates with me. Like,
He's
that's
a
all I want.
genuine article. I like that,
Yeah, like,
Lee.
I mean, that's all I just want people to be the real deal. Whatever that is, I want them to be the real deal. I want to be their the fullest sense of themselves is what I prefer, even in my personal relationships.
Yeah, and I feel like for me personally, I've always been in the sphere of the PR communication world, and I've worked for the Israeli government. I worked for the U.S. government. I've always been wearing Judaica, and you know what, Lee? I've not given up on the thumb ring. I am bringing it back. I am bringing that part of the '90s back, baby. Because it's another. I'm just looking for the right pinky rings. But this has always been me. Like, you can actually look at pictures of me, and like, so this for me is a great way. Yes, I used to layer different necklaces, but now I've only been layering Judaica. Okay,
Yeah,
like, that's great. So yes, I'm being authentic. I'm speaking up and out in my way, and you are doing your way, and Joe is his, and Eitan and Jai, and any of the people that are Hillel. Like, listen, I wish that I could just spit out facts that way, or like Ben Shapiro. My dear God, I to be able to talk that fast and still eviscerate someone. Oh my God, I'm just like, oh, teach me. Like, I I talk fast and I talk loud, but I am not him.
yeah.
I just don't. My brain's going, but my mouth can't keep up. But his mouth keeps up with his brain, and like, wow, kol kavod to him, because I don't know how he does it.
Shabbos Kestenbaum is another one. They
Oh
they could,
yeah.
they could have a speed talking race.
Oh my God, that would be really fun to watch.
It would be.
Like, they could, like,
Speed
they
talk-
could, like, oh, it's like a tag team wrestling. They could, like, now it's you, now it's you, and then the people who would try to be arguing with them. First of all, like, I love watching the people's faces when they're like, because it's so fast. And then on top of it, to be like, oh my God, there's more than one of them. I think that would be, listen, Lee, I think this is all of your creativity going all the time. You just thought of like a great idea. So, Shabbos and Ben, if you're listening, Lee has got it going. We'll set it up. We'll figure it out. Where I'm not sure, as long as it's warm. So, not the Northeast. It could be Florida, it could be the West Coast, whatever. But let's just keep it warm. And then we'll go ahead and get that done. But I think it's really important, and it to just encourage people, like you said, to stay true to who you are. I mean, I could not be more excited about making Aliyah, and just being able to be who I really am. And I take the opportunity to talk about it as much as possible, because when people say to me like, and you just recently came back from Israel, like, how could you go? It's like really dangerous there now. I'm like, actually, if you look at crime statistics and everything else, I'm highly more likely to get mugged and killed, and like
It's
where I
more
am now.
dangerous for Jews in Toronto, I think, or
Oh dear God, yeah. And I'm like, look, there it's because people don't truly understand, right? And part of that problem is this, again, not to use these twisted buzzwords, but whatever happened with this weird thing that the with DEI and these other things, that when you said, you're like, there was no substance in all of that. But the other part that's more alarming than this like weird circle talking of no substance is some of the like complete lies that have crept into not just our, you know, um, our post secondary education, but our K through 12.
yeah.
It's
No, look,
deeply alarming.
and why I've always there's two things about my advocacy that have given me comfort. One is that my viewpoint on what needs to be said about Jews and about Israel is totally in line with what is good for America. Um, but so domestically and foreign policy, I believe I have never had to compromise between my Zionism and my patriotism. I am thankful that those value systems are aligned. I think American values are the same thing as Israeli values. They just are. I think Jewish values are a core part of what American values were based on. We know American values were based on Judeo-Christian values. Period. Full stop. I don't.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
happy
it.
to entertain a conversation. It's just the facts. Um, so I think that I've always had comfort knowing that there will always be consistency between my view of what is good for Jews and Israel and what's good for America. And frankly, um, it doesn't matter if sort of tactically there's like a difference, right? There could be, a near term issue that America needs to do one thing, and maybe that's not the best for Israel. But I'm talking about on a long term basis.
Right.
What are the goals? What are the alignment? There's total alignment.
Mhm.
Again, tactically, there might be some disagreement, but the other thing that has always given me comfort, and especially when I look at what's going on in places like England, I mentioned Canada, Australia, France. I somehow don't understand how it's gotten that bad in those Western countries. And because look, I'm certainly not, I don't have my finger on the pulse of those countries like I do in America. I genuinely understand the composition of this country. I think I will say I believe I know it much better than most people that I know who live on the coasts, or if you grew up in New York, LA, Miami, Chicago, those big cities, which are kind of, I think, most of the people that we tend to know.
Right.
you might not really understand the composition of America. I do because of the businesses and the work that I've done in terms of like building brands that really are mainstream American brands, selling things to people in all of these cities across the country. So I have a real sense of it. And so part of the comfort that I always had is I know what the backstop is. I know that there is a point where there are enough patriots in this country that they will not tolerate what, the trajectory that we're on. They just won't. I don't know at what point they rise up, whether, you saw things like in was it North Carolina where the
The
fraternity,
fraternity, yeah.
right,
I mean, it
didn't,
was amazing.
right? Like that's patriotism. That is
Oh my
American
God, yes.
patriotism where people say hell no and we're
Right,
stepping up. And we
right.
have that in this country, you know,
Yes,
uh, you know,
yes.
and so I don't worry that we will get to a place that even a place like England is at right now. Forget about where it's going. Where
Mm.
England is at right now, which I think is at a dangerous precipice. I don't recognize that country. And I know a lot of Brits don't recognize that country anymore.
Yeah, you are spot on that. And we had Jessica, Jewish Jess, on, and she lives in London, and she is literally like, I don't know how to describe what's going on where
Yeah.
I live. Like that's a scary thing. But
Yeah.
you hit it right on the head when you're like, yes, in the South. And I love that story because the fraternity, what the fraternity went as a group, right? Now, again, I mean, I was not a sorority or fraternity person, but I understand the whole, thing behind the fraternity sorority. Like, these are your brothers, much
Mhm.
like when you serve, these are your brothers. And one of them was Jewish, and he went to be like, no, and he was there to have an American and an Israeli flag, and then they went with him to support him because they're like, hell no, this is not an American way to be. And then when they tried to take down the American flag and they were going to burn it or stomp on it or whatever, like, I'm sorry, but there are like there are people that gave their life for that symbol, and when people burn things like that, I just feel like it is so utterly disrespectful. And anyone in the United States that does not have a problem with that, wake up, because you're 100% right. Look at what's going on in London. Look at what's going on in France. Look at what's
It's
going on in Canada. Like,
horrifying.
it is horrifying. And we are seeing, blur little like thing we are seeing it here, not to that level, but we are seeing it here. But we have the choice. I mean, America is a huge, physically huge, I don't mean like people are fat, I mean like physical geographical space, right? And there are a lot of different areas, like and it's the, I would say, the South and the Midwest. You did not see the same amount of the issues on the college campuses that you did, in Boston and New York and
No, because
in the
they
coast.
recognize it as what it is. And by the way, it's not like I'm also not kidding myself. It's not like everywhere in the country is so in love with Jews. It's
Oh
that's
no, there's like neo-Nazis,
not it.
like, yeah, yeah.
There's plenty of no. It's again. I'm a pragmatist and I'm practical. But what they recognize is what these people are doing is anti-American, and they hate democracy, and they hate
Hmm.
this country, and they hate
Hmm.
and whether they sort of intellectualize the fact that okay they're targeting Jews first and then next they're coming maybe not. I think that just instinctively they see this and they go no, not over here, you
Right,
know
right.
like that's where you got that song try that in a small town, like that's where that sentiment comes from. It's like come try that over here, we don't fuck with that. We don't you know and unfortunately we have sort of this like tolerance in a lot of major cities that look frankly I don't understand it. I'm from New York, I grew up in New York, and but I don't understand how you get really politicians who somehow cater to this minority, this very small minority, vocal minority of people who really support kind of really terrible ideas, right? Like there's I don't know what the line is, and I don't know if I'll get it right, but it's and I don't know who said it originally, but it's like those that are compassionate to the cruel are cruel to the compassionate. Like that's the reality of it. Like if you let monsters walk around unfettered, unchecked, unchallenged, well, you've taught them a lesson that you tolerate that behavior. And now you've given them comfort. You've given the cruel comfort. And again, sometimes they take it to a wrong place, but I think there's a lot of this country that just don't. It's too fundamentally misaligned with their value system.
Mm. It's incredibly well said, because I don't. And as someone who, felt deeply affected and connected to everything that's happened, whether it was, the terror attacks on 9/11, or when we pulled out of Afghanistan and what that did to the people who chose to serve, because we are a country in which service is not mandatory. In Israel, service is mandatory, which I feel actually builds a greater sense of community. And maybe if service were mandatory in this country, even community service, like, they don't even do that anymore. Like, I did way more than I needed to, because community service was important to me, but that's not even a requirement anymore for our young people in this country. But maybe if we had more of that, we would have a greater appreciation for what that means. And a lot of that is why I choose to speak up, because I just, it does not compute in my head, because I don't think you should mistreat anyone.
Well, what's also interesting is we're talking about those regions, right? Like the South, the Midwest. Those are the places that our soldiers come from.
Yes.
And so I think it's notable
Yes.
that the ideology that recognizes what is anti-American are the places that send their sons and daughters to
Yes.
die on the battlefield. That's where it comes from.
Right.
So, like that's where you're walking the walk, right? These are people that acutely understand, because it is their children who are the ones that we send to fight these wars.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not sure what I am hopeful that we're rewriting the course here. I think that this election was as much a referendum on those type of policies as any single person. I think that's it. I think what you've got is you've got the American public at large that basically says, we have lost the plot. We've lost the plot. We're chasing things that a very few people want to chase, that impact very few people, and that we are subjugating everybody else's rights in favor of these ideals that we don't share, that are misaligned with American values.
And to further that point, I feel like what had been going on is not just that, but it's when you have to oppress another group to allegedly lift yourself up, already you're starting from, like, the wrong spot, right? And to have to attack someone to better yourself, again, that shows me everything I need to know. And it's funny, because I actually went back to, like, this idea of the South in my quest to again, because for me to just be like, F this, F that, F this, F that. Well, yes, I have a bad mouth, and sometimes I swear more often than my mother would like to hear. But I was trying to be like, okay, I'll channel the people from the South and be like, well, bless your heart and all that stuff. And so I tried really hardly. I did. I was like, well, bahatzlecha, like, good luck, good luck. But then one day I got really mad. And I went, bahatzlecha, and then I was like, that's actually funny. And then I printed it on a shirt, wore it all around Israel. People were stopping me in the street. Evo, Evo, Evo. I was like, oh no, I made this, right? And then, so I then took it a step further, and that's actually how the whole shop became, because I was like, what's another way to promote what we're trying to say? Then sometimes you got to be funny, right? Sometimes you got to be whatever. So it's once on the front, 6 times on the back, because even I need a day off from pointing that out. So on Shabbos, I take a day off from Bahatzla fucking.
My dog is barking at my pool, guys.
Oh, it's totally fine. I have 2 dogs, and I'm sure one of them has been barking before. So listen, Lee, dogs are always welcome here on Zionist AF, because every once in a while, like, Tova does not take no for an answer, and you start to see this arm start to like twitch. And I'm always like it just doesn't work out. But here, with me, what you see is what you get. So it is what it is. Like, never just, if the dog needs to come say shalom, your dog is welcome to come say shalom on Zionist AF. I know you have 8,000 things, as when I, like I said at the beginning, to go and introduce you, I'm like, I don't even know how to start introducing you, because there's so much stuff that you're doing. I'm like, this man must not sleep or something. I don't know. But Obi-Wan Kenobi, teach me in your wise ways, or from Yoda. I don't know. I'm not really one of those Star Wars people, but I almost said Star Trek, but I didn't. I watch a lot of Big Bang Theory, so I know it's always like a big joke. But so like, please know that you are welcome anytime you want, anytime you have an announcement, whether it's about anything you're doing business wise, or you're just like, hey, I have something to say. You let me know. We'll put up a special episode of Zionist AF. And you are welcome here anytime. But I wanted to just officially say, on behalf of like the Zionist AF family, because this was exciting for me, for us to finally kind of, talk face to face and everything, was, please continue what you're doing, because even though I'm someone who is self-motivated to speak up, it does help, right? To know you're not alone, because I doggy, because I feel like sometimes we have to break it down and rhyme, because these hate-filled losers always feel the need to rhyme. I came up with this: we, not me, gam, anachnu, lo ani. Because from the river to the sea, Israel has and always will be.
That's right.
So, Lee, thank you so very much. We will put up all of the different ways that people can follow you and learn from you up in our description of our podcast. As I said again, you're welcome anytime. And the Zionist AF shop will be rolling out an official Lee-inspired item.
Awesome.
I'm not quite sure what that is yet. It's gonna, marinate in the brain of all of the things that roll all through my brain every day, and we will definitely get that to you. But thank you again for shining your light. Thank you for being a strong voice, and speaking up even though you don't have to. Thank you for doing what you feel you need to do.
Appreciate that. Thank you for having me. It's been great.